You know, this is something that we've been talking about because we've been talking about the disposable class of people, which I believe black men have been for the past, let's say, 400 years. When I say black men, I'm not talking about on the global black man. I'm talking about the ADOS black man, the American black man here in these colonies, as the Europeans will call it. We've been a disposable class. And Dr. Claude Anderson calls black people the permanent underclass, but like I said, I think he really means black men as an underclass, as a disposable class to be used and tossed away. I was talking to Master Yao. Shout out to Master Yao. If I can remember it, I'll find his channel. I'll put it in the description. But he asked a question during his presentation that why is it that black men have taken on the persona or the role of what has been given us instead of determining it for ourselves. He didn't say anything about black women, he said black men specifically. And he challenged us to answer that, challenged us to actually come up with an idea, with an answer, with a response, whether it was right or wrong. And he said, how come black men have not determined who they are and what they stand for and their role for themselves? So I just piped in, I said, in my opinion, humbly, it's Master Yao, humbly, okay, he's the master teacher, I am not. I said, in my opinion, black men have taken on the role of this ADOS, of this society, including our women, are being disposable. And even coming out of slavery and being integrated into society through Jim Crow, most black men did not live beyond the age of 40 or so, right? The average age, a lifespan of a black man coming out of slavery into Jim Crow until 1920 or 1930. A black man's average lifespan was 31 years. So the life of a black man was not going to be long. And for a woman, a black woman who has to raise children, she's probably going to have kids by more than one man. She's probably going to have a series of men to get her kids, their children, and their offspring to maturity. Even today, 70% of black women that have more than one child have more than one father. In fact, Dr. Gigi, I'm going to have to find that clip because it's a very succinct clip that he was doing on Short Bus talking about that the black community is a virtual, polyandrous society. In other words, the women are going to have multiple husbands in a sense. They're going to have, by her having children by more than one man, then she's going to have, in a sense, multiple husbands, multiple partners. So that means in this society with multiple partners, and we've seen this with the rich men and the drug dealers and whatnot, that to black women, black men are disposable. Yvette Carnell pretty much said the same thing when she's talking to the political class of black women in the Democratic Party, that we have treated these men as disposable. And so I spoke that to Master Yao, and he agreed that for a long time, us as black men have taken on the persona of being disposable, of being the servant class, of putting ourselves in service to black women and black children. In fact, we are not considered a man in this society, in our ADOS society, unless we're in service to whom? The black woman and black children. Anything outside of that is outside of manhood. Even our so-called pro-blacks, our nationalists, our so-called black leaders tell us the exact same thing. If you're not saving, helping black women and black children, then you as a person, and you as a person is not a man. I was watching these clips of Boyce Watkins talking about Deion Sanders and the difference in value that the black community saw Deion Sanders as versus the value as Colorado State saw him as. Jackson State saw him as a golden goose to be fleeced and used. $300,000, that's all they could afford. Okay, he cut a deal, they undercut the deal. The city of Jackson made so many millions of dollars, it basically enriched the city, enriched the school, enriched the whole conference. And they complained the whole time. It's too fast, he's too flashy, he's too braggadocious, blah, blah, blah. All this negative stuff. And they treated him like, in my opinion, the whole time I was listening to him, they treated him like he was less than. He's a rainmaker. Deion Sanders should have been treated like a god. He hadn't even signed completed the deal with Colorado. I remember the first time he walked into a Colorado basketball game, right? Basketball game. These white boys had never seen him in person ever, right? He walks into the basketball game just to watch the basketball game with Boulder, Colorado. Just walked into the basketball game, right? He had 20,000 people stand up and give him a standing ovation because Coach Prime came in. That's before he coached the game. I think he had just signed the contract. The next week he comes in, he gets a standing ovation because they appreciated the value that he brought to them. He was not a disposable asset to be used. He was a valuable asset that will actually bring in value, bring in entertainment, bring in eyeballs, bring in prestige. They valued everything he could bring. The city of Jackson, Jackson State, the HBCUs did not appreciate who and what he was and what he could bring. What did Eddie Robinson say? You ain't swag. Did the HBCUs and other colleges chip in to give value to that football team? Did they donate anything to that football team? Understand that they didn't have very much. He didn't ask for much. He donated money to build up locker rooms and fields. He got people to come in and build fields for his team. He got donors to come in. He brought value to Jackson and Jackson State. Did they treat him like he was a valuable asset? No, they did not. That's the difference. And what I was telling Master Yao to finish this up is I think now people don't like the black manosphere. In fact, Yvette Carnell was actually calling this the underbelly of YouTube, right? Why? It's because black men are now determining their value for themselves, which is all I ever wanted. Not to say what they should be, what they should do. If you think you should go sacrifice yourself for the black community and that's what you want to do, you think that's the right thing to do. And people always said, well, you're leading them back into nothing. I am not leading black men back into shit. What I want is a black man to determine his value and where he wants to put his mortal coil, which is the most valuable thing he will ever own in this universe, his presence on this plane. If he wants to sacrifice that or give that away or use that for whatever he wants to use it for, whether it's to go back to the black community, whether it's to sacrifice himself to a baby mama that's got 6 kids by six different men, or he wants to get on a plane and go someplace else and find him a different woman in a different place and whatever's going to make him happy. I don't care. Thing is it what you want to do? Determine your own value for yourself. What I really want black men to do is value what you have. Like I said in my last video, no woman I ever been with has ever asked me how much I made. Get that again. Say that again. No woman that I've ever been with, ever hooked up with, ever dated, has ever asked me how much I ever made. Per year, per hour, per nothing. They barely asked me what job I had. Now they could actually figure it out. In fact, my fiance didn't know how much I made until we did taxes. And that's after a year and a half of me being with her. She finally figured out what my salary was. In fact, my salary was more than she thought, but she had me anyway. You have an intrinsic value, just like they do, because they go by the intrinsic value. And you have one just like they do. I don't care if you're 5'1" or you're 7'1". I don't care if you're 185 pounds or 285 pounds. You have an intrinsic value. You have talents that you bring to bear. That's where you start. Don't let nobody else determine what your value is. Now, your value is what it is, and on the market, on the market exchange, then you got to compare it to everybody else's value, just like they do. But black men have to get out of the idea, get out of that mindset, stop being that freaking winter soldier, turn that chip off, and stop thinking of yourself as a conqueror to be disposed at will. I know too many drug dealers that put their life and their limb and their freedom on the line to get assets so that this society and these women would value him for something. That's what they spent their money on. Yeah, cars and bitches. And when they went to jail or they got injured or something like that, they had no assets to fall back on. Because as soon as they were no longer valuable, those women disposed of him. I see a lot of brothers that in wheelchairs, they've been out there on the streets, and you see them in wheelchairs, guess who's pushing them? Is it their woman? Is it the females in their family? No, it's their homies. I'm just saying. Anyhow, that's all I got for this one. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.